Hey, hey, friends. We are back for another fun week with you. I'm Tammy Owens, and we've got Henry Ball, the awesome author extraordinaire. Now, two books in hand for the Michael Chappell case. We've got the Michael Chappell is Innocent book, and we've got the Henry, I hate to say it, Killing Henry book now out, getting ready to be on the press, right?
Yes, ma'am. It actually went to the printer on Sunday night. I had a brief conversation with them yesterday, and they are kind of preparing the final documents for me and formatting for the different book, for the hardcover, softcover, e-publication.
I
And
love it.
what's that?
I love it. How does it feel to actually have it in someone else's hands now?
Yeah, I mean, it's done. It's done. It is what it is. So
Yep.
I feel good about it. You know, biased, but I think it's a great book. I think some of the things that we've kind of had to go through to get there have been, uh, we'll say, exhausting, but it is what it is. And the mission continues. We were all hoping that the mission would have concluded a couple of weeks ago, but that is not what occurred. So we fight on, and we'll see we'll see where we end up. But I felt like it was time to publish Killing Henry. I certainly tried to hold out for the habeas and hoping that we would have a good conclusion a couple of weeks ago, and that would be the ending for the book. But that was not to be. It ended where it ended, and
But as we see, the Michael Chappell case just seems to never, ever, ever, ever end.
yeah, I mean, I
It's
should have named it the
unfortunate
Never
for him.
Ending Story, right? But I guess
Yes.
that was already taken.
Yeah.
But
It's unfortunate for Mike. And
yeah,
that's why we continue to fight this case and continue on with that mission that we started.
yeah. And I think folks saw the post that I did over the weekend. We finalized the music for A Thin Blue Crime for the podcast. I really love that song. I mean, it just really kind of goes, I think, with the the mood, if you will, of the podcast. And there's some things in the lyrics that you can read into about some of the people in the case. Even with the recent happenings in the case, and we just feel like justice has not been done, and at the end, that is going to be in God's hands, and for people who go against justice and people who go against the truth, then
Yeah.
uh, God's going to cut you down.
Well, and
So,
I've always heard vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. But I was reading in
absolutely.
Proverbs today in Proverbs 19. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was talking about um, for those that have committed those crimes, don't try to handle it on your own
Yeah,
because they will be taken care of. God's got it under control.
yeah,
So there's no need for us to worry about it. And we
yeah,
don't understand that sometimes that God, that there's something that he sees that we don't. And he could be using Mike for some purposes that, or us,
yeah,
he sees the bigger picture and
yeah.
he'll handle all
Absolutely.
those other people for what they've done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and not to get sidetracked, but we're really excited about that. I'm excited about the song. I mentioned, I think, in the comment or in the post, some of you guys probably remember Matt Duff. We've had him on a couple of times to talk about his other case. He's actually done a couple of podcasts with a couple of other cases, but the big one that a lot of our folks was following was the
Mhm.
Ivan Cantu case out of Texas. And that podcast was called Cousins by Blood. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to Cousins by Blood, I recommend that you do. It's a great podcast. And, I think he kind of earned his way and learned his way through that podcast. He's actually got a production background. He's actually done TV work, true crime, and um, um, reality TV work, and so he's actually a legit, bona fide producer, and that really comes through with a Thin Blue Crime. I said it in the comment. He's a genius. Like as I'm listening to these episodes, I'm like, man, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, and we have our issues with the previous podcast or previous podcaster around here, but it was very well done. It was a great podcast, and it was very successful. And I'm still proud of that. I'm still proud of that podcast, and it still has some value in the Michael Chappell fight.
Sure.
But I think a Thin Blue Crime is going to blow it away, and for a couple of reasons. Not just is the quality there, the story is being well told, the production
But you have
value.
the footage.
Yeah, and we're actually going to take you into the courtroom. You're gonna hear what the jury heard. You're gonna hear all of these critical issues directly, from the jury, and then what we found in the investigation, and how it unfolded over time. And so what I have been saying, which I believe is absolutely true, is that we are telling the most complete story that has been told in the Michael Chappell saga with a Thin Blue Crime. And so I'm really looking forward to it. We're getting dangerously close to being ready to start releasing episodes. And what I want to ask everybody to do, and I'm going to say this again toward the end, and then maybe we're going to put a post out here in a day or two. But a Thin Blue Crime is the landing site is set up on Spotify, and you can follow a Thin Blue Crime at Spotify. I would ask everybody to go do that. The trailer is there for now. But it's where the podcast will originate. And so, excuse me. And so we need as many followers as possible. So please find a Thin Blue Crime by Henry Ball on Spotify and follow for now. And that's
what I share, and share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I would. We'll start sharing it a lot once we, either start dropping episodes or are ready to start dropping episodes. But for right now, we just need to build, as many basic followers as we can. So get in there and follow us. And that's a Thin Blue Crime by Henry Ball.
But it's the teasers that get people, Henry. So when I say share, hey, you got to hear this. Listen to this.
And
absolutely.
The
episode will be out soon. Yes.
Absolutely.
Tease them with it. Absolutely. So we don't really have any questions flowing in yet. So I'm asking everybody to please post your questions, because I know you have some. But we have a little bit of exciting news to share ourselves.
What says not Henry, Matt Duff?
He had said he thinks you're going to be an amazing podcaster.
Oh, well, Matt Duff said that?
Creek Crazy. Who is that?
Okay. Well,
he said you were.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And really, we all are. Our whole team, Joy, our host, Matt Duff, myself. I think we're all doing a great job. Matt's pulling me along and keeping me effective. But I just, you're not going to hear Matt's voice a lot. But I just want everybody to know he's the genius behind the curtain. I can't wait for you to hear it. I mean, you can hear it in the trailer. The trailer sounds great. The breaking news trailer we did sounded great as well. But I'm I'm the third episode in. I've heard the first three episodes, and they're just great. I mean, I love them. And I've got a lot to do with how we're putting them together. We talk, Matt and I talk about everything and go through everything, and he surprises me a lot because he's actually found certain things that we have that I didn't even realize we had, and he does a great job of connecting things and connecting the dots, and so it's just it's coming together fantastically, and so.
To Creek Crazy's point,
What's that?
I said to Creek Crazy's point, though, anything your hand touches turns out to be amazing. So that is a gift. That is a gift, Henry.
Well, I appreciate that. And
yeah.
And at the end of the day, it to me, it's the story is what it is, and the story needs to be heard. And I had a lot of and have a lot of feelings for Michael Chappell's family, and when I came to realize that Michael Chappell, was an innocent man in prison, I had a lot of feelings for that. Mm-hmm. But I'll be honest with you, what really pushed me is that this could happen to anybody. Like if they could do this to Michael Chappell, they could do it to anybody. And I just felt like this story had to be told, and that really has been my mission. Absolutely. My mission has been to get Mike out of prison. Mm-hmm. But my greater mission is to make sure that the world knows that this happened, and we need to do things so that it doesn't continue to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. William has a great question. So here we go. Henry, have you had any contact with Mike? If so, is he surprised by the judge's decision, and is his spirit still good?
So indirect contact through a couple of members of his family, and I think it probably would be hard to surprise Mike at this point with this case, but he's keeping his optimism as best as he can, and he's looking forward to his next opportunity. So I do know that the appeal is in progress. I learned some information about that just before we came on that I really can't share yet because I need to verify something, but we'll have some more information next week. But it is in as much as it was portrayed to me, his spirits are still as high as can be expected.
That's good. We've been talking about getting this story out, and from the very beginning, that was what we focused on, getting the Michael Chappell story out. And so what we did was going all over town, shouting Mike's name and free Mike Chappell, that he was innocent. The book launch, that's where it started from, really. And so now we've got another book. We got to launch it. We've got to have some energy. And so we are checking into some more festivals. Got to get the word out. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So you and I have been talking over the last couple of days, and I thought we had a great event when we did the Michael Chappell book launch. And I thought that perhaps we should put together a launch for Killing Henry. And of course, we all had I think we all had an affinity for the festivals and events that we did as the Michael Chappell is Innocent Project. You, me, Nurse Jenny, a lot of other people, Laura Finney, and different people. Of course, my wife, your husband, Jenny's husband, and all the people that really, kind of helped us along the way. We had some great times. We did a lot of good, and got to talk to a lot of people. A lot of people, came to know Michael Chappell's story and read the book, and then it just continued to help us grow. And so we thought maybe we should do just kind of launch tour. So we're gonna.
And let me just say this: I told Henry that we are not calling it the Killing Henry Tour. I'm not saying that. Not doing it. So we want you guys involved.
So yeah, so we're gonna ask your opinion. Option one is the Killing Henry tour. Option two is the Mission Continues tour. What was your choice, Tammy?
The saga continues.
The saga continues.
What did you call the mission? What did you just say for the second one?
The enduring mission. Oh, the mission continues. Okay. And we'll answer that question that William just put up here in just a minute. So in any event, we're looking at, and we'll finalize and we'll let everybody know, but we're looking at doing the Fuzz Run on September 12th, the Duluth Fall Festival, September 26th through September 27th, and then the Loganville Fall Festival on October 17th. If you guys have any other ideas or ideas for the tour, please let us know. And we'll just we'll try to put together a really cool opportunity to meet and greet everybody and get the Killing Henry book out there. The reason we're not making it a dual launch is that I expect A Thin Blue Crime will have already launched by then. So this will essentially be the Killing Henry tour.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I hate it. That's why I'm not saying it. William votes for the Mission Continues, which I like. Yes.
I see that. And William's question is part of that mission. And so is there any plan and
progress toward getting
Tukey's parole reinstated? So Tukey was actually supposed to send me some papers on his situation that I haven't received yet. I am kind of milling around, possibly doing a parole reconsideration like I did one time for Mike. There were some things that happened that kind of made that not very effective, but it wasn't because we didn't do a good job on it. And I think we have some good information for Tukey, so I'm considering doing that. There's not a hard set plan, William, but we're not forgetting about him. So thank you for continuing to ask, and hopefully we'll have some better news for you soon.
Yeah, I just felt like they trapped him. It was like they set him up, they trapped him, and then.
I mean, he's in prison because he testified for Mike.
Exactly.
So,
but there you go. Cherry on top shows you what they'll do. And just terrible, terrible, terrible.
Any other questions?
Okay, you guys, we need you. I'm looking.
What are everybody's thoughts on the music for A Thin Blue Crime? Did y'all get a chance to listen to that from the Post this weekend?
I like it. I think it's great. It just molds well with the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just excited for it to be heard. Okay, great. We've got one. Has anyone from any of the law enforcement officers' families ever talked to you off the record about Mike's innocence?
I've talked to a lot of law enforcement officers. You said from any of the law enforcement officers. So are you just talking about in general, or are you talking about specific law enforcement officers connected to this case? And I'll answer the generally as there are a lot of law enforcement officers in our group. There are a lot of law enforcement officers that believe and have sought to help me prove Mike's innocence. And some of those on the record, some of those off the record, and however it needed to be at that time. There's also former Gwinnett County police officers in the same position that have helped me both on and off the record. And then I'm asking if you're asking about a specific law enforcement officer, because if you're asking about who I think you're asking about, I can share a little something on that.
Connected to the
car. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
You might have to message him directly.
Case, connected to the case. So yes,
there you go.
I have talked to some the police officers connected to the case, and oddly enough, some of the family, and you will hear some of that in A Thin Blue Crime. You're not asking about the specific one that I thought you were asking about, and so I'm going to be cryptic about that. But one of the officers, very much connected to the case, we have had some conversations. I have not personally, but through an intermediary, have had some conversations about certain things and certain critical evidence, and we've learned a lot of things that we possibly didn't know in the past. So I will say that in general, the law enforcement community feels like, Michael Chappell deserves a fair shake if he didn't get a fair shake. There are some officers that believe he did not get that fair shake and they want him to get that fair shake. There are some officers that believe he's guilty, and I've heard from some of them. And there are some that, vehemently believe he's guilty and don't necessarily support our mission. But I would say that those that do support our mission far outweigh those that don't. So, and I could tell you some crazy stories, to be honest with you. But in any event, Yvonne, yeah, I caught that on the second note. Sorry about that. Connected to the case, but yeah, it's been a mixed bag. It's been both, and again, more. From my perspective, more that support our mission than those that don't. And we appreciate all of the law enforcement community that is in this group. Mm-hmm. Appreciate you all. You do a thankless, dangerous job, and you do it hopefully for the right reasons. I know the vast majority of the boys and girls in blue that I know do it for the right reason. And so we appreciate you very much for that.
Yeah. Early on, I was talking with a friend, and her husband was a retired officer. And, I never thought about it as it being a big deal that I would share with my friend. He had heard about it, and I just talked about it in front of him, but it became a situation where I would update my friend when I saw her, whatever. But at one point I was yelled at, because why do you got to keep talking about that every time you come up here? Is that all you're up here for? Which was totally out of line, and it obviously hurt my feelings. But what was hard about it is that the party had the issue with was having the thought that someone he worked for over 10 years would be a department that would have done something like that to an officer. Now, I can understand that. I mean, gosh, if I was working for somebody that I respected and then I found out that they did whatever, but I mean, it was well before his time. Either way, my thing is just having an open mind to think, oh my gosh, this could happen to any one of us, and to at least look at it, not just block it. And even now, with all of the evidence, everybody has access to the evidence now, and you can make an informed decision for yourself. And even if the judge is ordering the way he did, it doesn't mean that the evidence says otherwise. It states, if you have a reasonable mind and intellect, that Mike is innocent. You can lay it out there for yourself and see it. But there are so many people, officers included, that they have made their mind up, they have their blinders, and that is the way it's going to be. And that's what's hard, because somebody's life is suffering. Many lives are suffering because of that viewpoint.
Yeah. Well, I think it had to be a very hard thing, and I'm sitting here contemplating whether or not I'm going to share this. But you'll hear from Mike's brother in the first episode, and you'll kind of hear what he has to say about that. He continued to work in this circle of law enforcement, and he worked for some of the very same people and worked with some of the very same people that we talk about in the book and in the podcast. And I remember him at the launch telling me, Henry, I worked with all these people, and I couldn't imagine that they would do this to my brother. And I'm not going to give it away, but you got to hear what he has to say in the first episode. It's
and on a personal note with him, he came to me and in tears and said, thank you, because up until now, I had never even given a thought that my brother might be innocent, because how well laid out this was, and him hearing the pieces of evidence and putting it all together. His brother is standing there in front of me, thanking me, like he did with you. He did with Aaron, because Aaron told me the same thing, but that he had actually heard it for the first time, where he thought his brother might be innocent. Yeah. And, that just hits you in the heart just so deeply.
Yeah. So William asked the question, that the kind of the same question that the judge used to say, well, why didn't they just kill him? And there was a lot of heat on starting that next morning, when Imogene Thompson's body was found, and essentially Tukey got away that night. I mean, and we have the record where they were essentially running, looking for him. And so we know that part of the story is, it's corroborated. And what if they did catch him that night in the dark, when they had just did what they did? Maybe they would have killed him that night, but he got away that night. Mm-hmm. And by the time, Morgan got to him to be able to threaten him, there was a lot of heat on in Beaufort. And so, maybe they didn't feel like they needed another body turning up. I don't know. But, there have been many times when, murderers threatened witnesses instead of killing witnesses. That's how some murderers have gotten caught. And there have been times when murderers murdered witnesses. I mean, but I don't think there's a a handbook or a playbook that, if you're going to murder, you have to murder this way. And when you murder, you have to murder everybody. I mean, do some murderers act that way? Yes, absolutely. Was Tukey reasonable to think his life was in danger? Absolutely. He just saw them kill kill an innocent citizen. So yeah, did he feel his life was in danger? And when you say Morgan and Hearst, we don't know that it was Hearst. We haven't identified him. We know it was Hearst that destroyed the evidence at Morgan's house, and we know there's some connective tissue to to Hearst in the case, and certainly to Morgan and Hearst and some of their nefarious dealings. But I don't think it's fair to say Morgan and Hearst. In fact, Tukey even said, that guy Bodie or Brody. So he wasn't sure. Probably wasn't a lot of Bodies and Brodies running around back then. But I think it's not fair to, to be definitive on that, because that's speculative to a degree. But in any event, that they did or didn't kill the witness, I don't know what's protocol. There are murderers that didn't murder everybody. There are murderers that did murder everybody. I don't know. I'm not a murderer, so I don't know what's protocol there.
Mm-hmm. I think we've got all the questions there.
I would just kind of ask back to William. Does that kind of make sense? What's your thought on that? Do you think it makes sense that, essentially we made a decision because, they could have just killed him. And so, and I don't know if you caught this part, but the judge also said, and he shouldn't have been scared because, Bodie was held accountable. Bodie was charged with 11 felonies, but then those 11 felonies were dropped for an offered plea on one. So, what me worry? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So Yvonne's asking, was it known who the leader of this police ring was into drug dealing and whatever, and Mike was getting too close, possibly connected to the Dixie Mafia?
There was definitely some Dixie Mafia crossing into Gwinnett County and so on and so forth. And Mike, according to the Northside Precinct investigation, was used by Captain Davis, the captain of the detectives, in surveillance against some members of the Dixie Mafia. So there were some, Dixie Mafia connective tissue. As far as the quote unquote leader, Morgan was identified as the street boss. And Tukey didn't really know his full identity. But there was what he called a PD boss. I can also tell you that Steve Mitchell wore a wire for the DEA when Captain Cantrell's son, Peanut, arranged for the DEA essentially to purchase 2 kilos of cocaine. And then he sent a sample of that to Steve Mitchell and a GBI agent. I think it was an ounce or however much it was of cocaine that was a sample of the 2 kilos. And the mule that he sent that with was his wife. So we had multiple members of Captain Cantrell's family involved in drug trafficking. Does that mean that Captain Cantrell was the leader of the police ring? No, I don't know, but there's connective tissue. William says, your answer makes a lot of sense. There really isn't a protocol or playbook for covering up a murder. And that was kind of my take, William. I was really shocked when I read some of the judge's reasoning, and I was shocked for two reasons. Because it was, to me, such bad reasoning, was quite shocking. But all of the other orders that I read from Judge Karpf just did not line up with this order. I mean, it didn't seem like the same person wrote these two orders. And so I was a bit taken aback by it. And that was just one of the many things that I was taken aback by, that, well, I mean, they could have just killed him, and that's a great thing for a judge to say. Well, we're not going to let you out of prison because the real killers could have killed this guy and they didn't. So, oh, okay. Noted.
Yeah.
Is it reasonable that Morgan and the other officer didn't know who they were chasing that night? Oh, absolutely. I don't believe they did know. And what Tukey originally told me was that, because I asked him about that, and he said, Morgan knew that I was at the hotel that night, and he knew that I knew he was at the hotel that night. And so when he first kind of approached him, that's what it was about. But he said, but they did suspect it was me they heard, because they questioned him on that. Whether they, knew for a fact it was him that was out there, it was him that saw, that's not necessarily what they threatened him over. They threatened him like, hey, you knew we were here with that lady. You knew we left with that lady. If you don't keep your mouth shut, you're going to end up floating in the lake. And so, was it credible for him to be in fear of his life? Yeah, absolutely. He probably had a healthy fear of them before, because he knew they were dirty cops. I remember what he said at the motion to dismiss hearing. He said, I will follow you because you are crooked. I will follow you because I know you're up to something. You are crooked, and I want to know what you're up to. And, lo and behold, he was right. But he already knew they were dirty. I mean, he had been making drug transactions with Morgan for, a long time at that point. So, I mean, he already knew they were dirty. So, but yeah, I don't think they absolutely knew that it was him in the darkness, William, but they knew somebody was there. They heard somebody, and we have witnesses that were passing by that said they saw two white males, running towards Peachtree Industrial from the muffler shop. And, it's another one of those things that GCPD just didn't follow up on, but seems like it should have been important.
Mm-hmm. If you sent a test just a second ago, we did get it. So go ahead and send your question through. You
passed the test. You passed the test. So now for the final exam. So we're going to give you.
Here we go. There we go. So if Georgia Supreme Court decides to review the habeas corpus ruling, will they review the whole criminal case?
I think it's more narrow. I think at that point they're reviewing the judge's order, the judge's ruling, and specifically any deficiencies that we enumerate from that ruling. So no, I don't think they're going to review the entire criminal case. And that's that's one of the things for me that I don't know how we fix it, but I feel like if you have more than you have more than a claim, that, hey, because everybody in prison's innocent, right? Everybody says, oh, I'm innocent. I was, wrongfully convicted, or I was treated badly by the system, or what have you. But if you have a reasonable claim and you have evidence, and some of that evidence maybe had played out in court, but then there's new things that you've learned that puts a different context and a different understanding on that evidence. It shouldn't be that, well, we dealt with that in 1993, so we can never think about it again. We can never talk about it again. And I don't know what the threshold is, but the truth should not have a statute of limitations on it. I just,
Exactly.
Murder doesn't have a statute of limitations. Why does a murder case have a statute of limitations? Why does the truth in a murder case have a statute of limitations? So I don't know how we fix that, but yes. So the next question about the rain jacket, that I think is something that should be reviewed, because that was part of this. Even though the judge didn't really cover it in his ruling, I think that's something that we can bring up.
Yeah.
That the alibi at the fire station is a good example of that. The reason that is thrown out, the reason that is not admissible, to me is just astonishingly incomprehensible. The reason it's not admissible is because Pamela Holcomb knew it existed in 2010 or whatever it was. Mike had no attorney at that time. Mike had no way into court. An investigator learned of its existence. She heard it. She's not an attorney. She's not his defense counsel. She's an investigator like me. And she heard it, so she knew it existed. That's Mike's due diligence. So Mike wasn't able to spend thousands of dollars because he makes 12 cents an hour or whatever. He wasn't able to spend thousands of dollars on an attorney to bring forward a successive habeas on that issue right then. So the clock ticked, and by the time Pamela Holcomb passed away a year or so later, that evidence was dead.
It's ridiculous.
That evidence was no longer usable. And so when we got our hands on the actual and actually got it cleaned up forensically, you would think, okay, here's the evidence. No, he should have got it under. He should have got. And here's the thing about that, right? It was in Danny Porter's possession the whole time. Danny Porter was asked for that tape numerous times. He told people it didn't exist. He told people it didn't exist. As soon as Danny Porter left office, we were first turned down with the open records request, and then I told the previous podcaster, I said, hey, send it to the district attorney. Here's her email address. Send it directly to her. And 15 minutes later, we had it. But we can't use it. It might as well still not exist, because Danny Porter originally hid it. He said it doesn't exist. That's the answer.
It's crazy how things work.
Yeah, and it just should not answer that. It should not work that way. And so that is a big frustration.
So if we end up getting a case that they argue, will we know the date? And if so, will they put it public on their website so that we are able to watch it?
That part I don't know. Yes, we will know the date. And I will update you, between now and then once our appeal is filed. But as terms of whether or not you can watch cases at the Supreme Court, I don't know. And I've got somebody that I can ask about that, and I'll try to find that out. But we would have quite a bit of time between now and then before we have to worry about that. But I'll try to find that out for you.
I say road trip. Go sit on the steps of the Supreme Court
Yeah.
with our free Mike Chapel signs.
Yeah. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah. So, well, we've had a good night here.
Absolutely.
Answered a lot of good questions.
I appreciate everybody. I asked earlier if you weren't on yet. If you have not yet, please go to Spotify, find A Thin Blue Crime by Henry Ball. Henry Ball and Storied Press. I think it just has my name on it. A Thin Blue Crime by Henry Ball. And follow us. If you haven't listened to the trailer is there. Please share the trailer and let people know that this really cool new podcast is coming soon. And we will keep you posted. And we appreciate you. My dog appreciates you. And was that another question, or did we catch all of them?
We got them all.
I think we got everybody. So with that, we're going to sign off. Miss Tammy, you have anything left?
Nope, just keep watch, and we'll let you know about all the festival fun stuff. And I'm sure we'll have some more goodies next week. Thanks, William. Thank you for your participation. We appreciate y'all.
Everybody else, thank you guys. The mission
continues. And the mission continues. It looks like that's going to be our name.
It looks like you're winning that argument for now.
Yep, I like it.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.